Sony is destroying Call of Duty. Just today, Sony has now blamed Microsoft that they will intentionally be adding bugs into their version of Call of Duty. And obviously, I responded with some question marks. I was like, what's even going on? Like, how is Call of Duty walking to the end of its life cycle? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we figured out today it is all because of Sony. And Sony is ruining the entire Microsoft acquisition merger against Call of Duty, and it makes me really sad because we're seeing it right now. I know Call of Duty has a new Mortal Kombat crossover that they've just decided to put within their new game with Modern Warfare 2, but this could not come at a worse time, in my opinion, considering that now Sony is once again destroying Call of Duty. We have seen very few updates with Modern Warfare 2, and because of this, Sony is now tackling Microsoft. They're blaming them and saying, you know what, if we accept this merger, then Microsoft is going to put bugs into our game and make it unstable. This is complete nonsense, because I remember with Black Ops 3, they added a Back in Black map pack, and all that map pack was bringing back a bunch of OG BO1 and BO2 and multiplayer maps. But the problem with that is that these BO1 and BO2 multiplayer maps were never released on any other console outside of PlayStation. And this is the type of emerging acquisitional garbage, in my opinion, that is completely ruining Call of Duty. Why is it that we're getting Call of Duty content now split on multiple platforms when they can't even support post-game content after launch? And I'm not talking about microtransaction deals. I'm talking about actual DLC, actual game modes content that aren't something that were introduced into a prior Call of Duty, but new and original stuff. Like, it's so crazy how it's still refreshing going back to games like Black Ops 3 with custom zombies, like this map that you're seeing on screen right now, with incredible new content that they're able to pump out and make you feel like you're playing a completely different custom zombies experience. It makes me really sad to see that Sony is definitely now acknowledging themselves to be a massive deterrent as to why Call of Duty is not seeing any progress. And does this make me worried for Call of Duty 2024? Absolutely. It makes me horrified. And to give you guys light on the actual situation, Sony is once again upset about this Activision Microsoft deal. Obviously, we know that they're being a complete nonsense and nuisance to everything with Call of Duty. And this whole exclusivity thing, I knew back in 2013 once Microsoft gave it up to Sony for after Advanced Warfare and then into games like Black Ops 3. It was just over from that point, because as soon as that happened, bro, now Sony is not wanting to give it up. They don't want to give up Call of Duty. And now Microsoft is also saying some bad stuff too. They're saying that they want to try and make Call of Duty compatible on other versions of the Switch, which I'm like, the Switch can barely handle the new Pokemon game, okay? Let alone a whole new Call of Duty Warzone platform where it requires a ton of computer processing power just to play at a normal rate. I have no idea how they're going to do this, and honestly, all of this nonsense is making me a little bit worried. One good positive thing, though, is that Call of Duty Vanguard and Black Ops Cold War are now on Steam, which is a huge W if you're a Zombies fan, because if you're a Zombies fan, what that potentially means is that if Call of Duty 2024 does release on Steam, which is something that they're moving away from, it seems like they're moving away from Battle.net, that could potentially mean that custom Zombies tools could potentially come into this next game. It wasn't even a possibility before, but now that we have this chance, it's so exciting, because listen, even if custom zombies doesn't come into console zombies, it doesn't have to. The tools only need to stay on PC. The best thing that could come out of this is that if the tools are on PC, but if you could play anybody's custom creations on any console, that would instantly, and I've said this before on Twitter, that would make whatever COD 2024 is instantly better than Black Ops 3. It would make it way more accessible. The playable lifespan of the game would exponentially increase. I'm telling you, by literally a decade. if they did that type of stuff. Because if they did, that means so many people would be able to play custom zombies. You'd be able to play this type of experience without Treyarch having to get involved anymore. And it kind of reminds me of what we're seeing with Hogwarts Legacy. You know, a lot of people liked Hogwarts Legacy, but it wasn't to do with anything with JKR. It was actually the people's envisionment of what they thought Hogwarts could have been 200 years before the Harry Potter storyline. And I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing with Call of Duty here. We're now seeing that the community is thriving off of the community's content rather than Treyarch's content. So seeing that a custom zombies is potentially possible for a COD 2024 now with all of these games coming back on Steam is incredibly exciting. But also, in comments to the UK CMA, Sony claimed that Microsoft hasn't offered solutions, despite Activision CEO Bobby Kotick saying that Sony refuses to return their calls. So, it seems like Sony is trying to do something against Call of Duty. It really makes you wonder, with them partnering with Deviation Games, for example. It makes you wonder, is Deviation Games about to do something with Call of Duty? Are they about to stop Call of Duty production? Who knows what's going on at this point, man? I have no idea. Sony is acting up, and everybody's just looking at the problem child being Sony like, what do we do? Microsoft's clueless. Nintendo Switch is like, why do y'all want me to make Call of Duty games? Like, it's very strange what's going on, and honestly, I hope we can settle this, because the faster we do, the faster we get more of the content that we want for gaming in terms of zombies, in terms of Call of Duty. And it makes no sense as to why this has lasted so long. This really reminds me of the whole Spider-Man debate ordeal that Sony had in the past. And Sony is notorious for not giving up their IPs. I mean, they really don't want to do this. So I believe that it's going to take a fight and a half for Sony to finally give up Call of Duty and let more developers help out without this series seemingly crashing and burning right in front of our very eyes. But to continue on with this whole event, Microsoft once again proposed legally binding mechanisms to continue bringing Call of Duty to PlayStation, something that it was obviously going to continue doing anyways, like Minecraft. But yet again, we're seeing even more problems, and again, it's making me sad. I really hope that Sony gets rid of this whole monopolized business with Call of Duty. I don't think Call of Duty was ever meant to be a monopoly. It's a big enough game that it should never have exclusive rights. And I know a lot of people were scared about that. For example, with the Deviation Games title, like, if it's only exclusive to Sony, then why would people even bother playing it? I think it's the whole differentiation between God of War and Elden Ring. Because Elden Ring is already on multiple consoles, that makes it way more widely accessible and way better of an experience for the overall player than if you were forced to buy a PlayStation 5 to play this game. Not to say that the God of War is worse than Elden Ring. I'm just saying that making it exclusive is nothing more than a detriment if it's going to be a game that everybody wants to play and finally enjoy. And also, Sony also bizarrely claims that Microsoft will intentionally introduce bugs into the PlayStation version of Call of Duty. I don't even understand this. Like, nobody even gets this. Activision doesn't even understand this, because why would they undermine their own business? It's all just FUD at the end of the day, in my opinion. This is all nonsense to delay this case and make it so that Sony can grasp onto all of that Call of Duty juice for as long as they possibly can, which is making me very upset, because the people that are detrimenting at the end of the day is all of us. We're all detrimenting because of the fact that the higher-ups can't get their actual business together and make a quality consumable product for all of us, and which is why I think Call of Duty has been such a stalemate for the past couple of years. So that's all I got to update you guys with. Honestly, I think Sony is ruining Call of Duty. What do you guys think is going to happen at the end of this verdict? I really don't know. It really doesn't make sense to me what's going to happen with the future of Call of Duty. It's very uncertain, even though the signs that I'm seeing with Call of Duty being on Steam and potentially with new mod tools could be very exciting. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in that next one.